So it looks like as we get closer and closer to its release date, Techland is just going to continue to drop breadcrumbs all the way up to February 4th. And it's very early to say something like this, but if they can deliver on everything they're saying, this has a very strong possibility of being Game of the Year. But I digress. If you guys haven't been keeping up with Dyinglight's official YouTube channel, yesterday they actually dropped a video that showcased the game's skill trees, specifically in terms of parkour and combat. Now it was nothing too wild, too crazy, or too in-depth. It was just quick 1 minute. They showed you the icons between the two skill trees. They highlighted a few specific abilities that we have seen in trailers. And if you've been keeping up with content creators, how they were sharing early gameplay a couple months back, which personally I stood away from, but if you watch that, I'm sure you've seen a lot of these skills. What's so exciting is more us getting a better understanding and feel of how the progression system in this game is going to work, showing us new icons as well and giving us some room to speculate on what some of these abilities are. Now we've known things like the game is going to have a parry system, which they showcased that you can upgrade to a perfect parry, where if you parry right before an enemy hits you, you can stagger them. And that in turn can be upgraded a few more times, which based off of just these icons, eventually it looks like you can parry arrows, and then at the very end of that, if you parry an arrow at the right time, you could potentially deflect it right back at them. Ground Slam is making a return from the original game. Tic Tac is also returning, although it looks like Tic Tac in this game is going to operate completely differently. In the original game, the skill trees in that game were actually divided in 3 tiers. You had Novice, Adept, and Expert, and Tic Tac was unlocked pretty much towards the end of Expert. You had to hit a basic parkour level of 13 in order to even invest in Tic Tac, and each tier was unlocked through reaching certain milestones. Like for instance, unlocking the whole Expert tier, you had to reach at least level 12 in agility, which in that game, agility is this game's version of parkour. It's just a small name difference. But Tic Tac was particularly useful whenever it came to climbing larger buildings. The whole point of Tic Tac was it allowed you to climb up a wall or any flat surface. So as an example, you can climb up a building where you're on a ledge and there's a pretty significant gap between the ledge you're on and a ledge above you in order to reach the rooftop. So if you had Tic Tac, you can then crawl to that higher ledge, given your momentum, and then you can continue to make your way to the top without having to find any other means to get around and reach the roof. Tic Tac and Dyinglight 2 looks like it's going to be very differently. It looks like the whole progression system is going to be different. It doesn't look like we're going to have that whole 3-tier system where you have Novice, Adept, and Expert, and you have to reach certain milestones in your level in order to unlock that next tier. But rather, it looks like this time around, it's all about unlocking a basic skill, and then through progression of parkour or combat, leveling up, you can then use that next skill point to achieve an upgraded version of a basic skill you already have. So in the context of Tic Tac, for example, if you look at the skill tree, initially it introduces you to the ability to wall run horizontally, and then it looks like the next tier at the very bottom here, that in turn would allow you to chain your wall run movements from left to right. This is something we've seen back in E3, back when Aiden was chasing after the Renegade's van. And then you have these other upgrades that looks like it might operate similar to how Tic Tac works back in Dyinglight 1, where you can wall run vertically and not just horizontally. Maybe that very last upgrade would allow you to actually propel yourself even further off of a ledge to reach even higher vantage points. So off these skill trees, we know we got Ground Slam returning, we got a new ability, 2 new abilities in the combat skill tree, which are Block Charge and Perfect Parry. Perfect Parry, you already know, we have a new parry system. If you parry at the right time, you'll stagger the enemy. Block Charge allows you to basically use an enemy as a means to negate fall damage. Over in parkour, we got Tic Tac coming back. We got Bash, which Bash looks and sounds a lot like Tackle from the original game. What I find interesting is that Bash is actually a spin-off from this ability. And it looks like directly underneath that, if I had to guess, this little icon with an enemy's head and seemingly your footprint coming off the back of it looks like where Volt is gonna be. So maybe this entire little branch here is all about the flow of movement and limiting the things that can actually hinder you. So that would make sense because you have Bash that allows you to break through enemies and obstacles without stopping. You potentially have Volt right next to it, allowing you to Volt off of enemies' heads. Or maybe it's an upgraded Volt that you can run off multiple enemies' heads, or it's upgraded where you can actually stun whoever you run on top of. Or it could be completely wrong and it's got nothing to do with that. If you look over at the combat skill tree, it looks like up here we're getting Stomp. Potentially drop kicking might be in the skill tree just based off of these icons up here. Down here, Ground Slam was actually a spin-off of this attack, which I'm assuming that's a power swing similar to the first game, where if you hold the attack button, you can create a stronger swing, and then underneath that, instead of a ground slam, you can swing in full 360, which would be another returning move from the original game. Whatever you take away from these icons, at the end of the day, something that you gotta really keep in mind is that all these moves flow into one another. There's a synergy that you really want to be able to capitalize on early game. In Dying Light 1, yeah, I know I'm getting sick of calling back to that game as well, but there's plenty of clues here. In that game, you couldn't get strong enough fast enough, and a lot of those movesets flow into one another and actually help you upgrade your agility and your power level simultaneously. Drop kicks did that, vaulting into a drop kick, grappling, and then stomping. Those were quick, easy ways to get kills and upgrade both of those skills, and that's something that you want to remember going into this game. There's a lot of synergies in between each one of these moves, and the key here is finding what moves complement each other early game, so that way, you know, I don't want to say you become overpowered, but you become a force to be reckoned with at the very start, and you're not struggling so much. But let me know what you guys think. What do you think about some of these skills and abilities based off these icons? How accurate or completely wrong do you think I am? You know, let's talk down in the comment section. Again, there's another Dying to Know coming out, I believe on the 14th, which will be next Friday, and at some point during this month, we are supposed to be getting gameplay of Dying Light 2 on the PlayStation 4, because if you didn't know, it is coming out on last generation of consoles, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and they did say if you buy the game on those consoles, you should be getting a free upgrade to the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X if you have those consoles or manage to get lucky enough to get those in the future. Anyways, to wrap this all up, thank you guys so much for watching. Let's talk about these skill trees down in the comment section. If you guys are new to the channel and you're excited for Dying Light 2, maybe hit that subscribe button. In these upcoming weeks leading up to the release of Dying Light 2, I am going to be cracking out a lot of videos that may not be exactly new information, but it seems like a lot of people that at least watch my channel aren't too informed on a lot of this stuff, and I'm just trying to generate that awareness of bringing everyone up to speed and knowing exactly what's going on, so that way everyone is all on the same page and prepared come February 4th. You can also feel free to join my Discord, which is linked in the pinned comment. But until next time, I'll see you guys all later.